Okay, so the next part is still the rest of those, which may seems to be the complicated parts of that SifiGun. So before we start, I just want to say that actually, if you just drag a box by using the box cutter with not selecting any parts, that it will just automatically create a box, and then we just move to the edit mode and select those faces to move it along the axis or the z-axis to change its general part to adjust its general shape. And then we just use the cutting to cut the shapes we want. For if there will be any geometries that you may think is not fit the original picture, we can just adjust it by entering the edit mode. And as for the upper part, we're still using the cutting edge to remove those unnecessary parts that we do not want. So I think that one of the most easiest way by using the box cutter, actually, we do not need to worry about its geometry, or we do not need to worry about its lines or its general overlay of the geometry, since the only things that we need to be focused on actually is only its shape. So we do not need to consider its the interior mechanics of it at all. And once we just got everything being done, the last part we need to do is fixing its geometry and its shading problems. So now let's still move to this part, and actually I think it will be a combination of the knife tools and the box cutter together. And if you want to flatten those shapes, we can just press W and then select flatten. So before this function being activated, I should say that we need to make sure that the loop tools has already been activated in our add-on files. So now let's just take a look about the general part of it, if it really fits the picture of it. And as for this part, I just not using the cut, but just use the slice. As we can see that once we use the slice to cut it, there will be another part being separated from the original one, and we use scale it to make it smaller. So that's just it. And another thing I want to say that once if you use a slice, we can also move to the modifier and apply both its boolean modifiers by its sliced parts and its whole parts, so they can be edited separately. So as for those more tiny details on that areas, as we can see, we can call it as the stock of the gun, right? But I also do not have no idea that what this part really means. Maybe it is just only a box of the electronic power, or maybe a box to store the battery, right? So I'm still using the knife tools to extrude those areas. And actually, by using the knife tools will be extremely easy, rather than if you use the drawing parts in the box cutter. I think both of them will actually have the same speed, and actually it depends on you. And now this time I'm still using the box cutter to make more holes, to dig more holes in this part, and I just press V to make an array. And then we can just go to the modifier to adjust its angle by press Y or Z, so that I will just array those Boolean parts along the Z-axis or the Y-axis. As we can see, because I have made some mistake of it, so some part of these areas actually do have a slice beveled parts. So that means that you can find that some of the edges are just determined to be black, but not the pure blue, which means that actually the beveled weight level is not is not strong enough, so that will seems to turn to be a black color, but not the pure blue. But as for me, that I want to turn it the pure blue, so I will just fix it later and just remove all those light-weighted beveled areas and change them all into the weighted bevel into one. Now this time I still use the slice to cut part in these areas, and I just change the size along the y-axis, so it will just looks to be smaller on its on the faces along the y-axis. And this time I still use the joint to add another step on that. So actually can also use the knife tools to cut an areas like that as well, so there's will be no differences of it. Another problem is if you just use the joint to make a shape like that, and if it just could not especially on its side faces, if it is not able to be aligned horizontally or vertically, maybe we have to change it manually, because sometimes it really doesn't work if we just directly by using the loop tools and press W to, or just by using the M3 tools, press Alt and A and just choose a line through the left or to the right, actually it may just not work properly. So that is the reason maybe we have to do it manually. And this time I still use the slice to cut a very small beveled machine on this part. So that's what we can see, that MA looks to be work extremely fast on that. But before I just do that, I do not apply the joint geometry boolean, so which means that that sliced part can cut on the beveled one rather than slice through the whole area, right? And as for this part, it's still the typical one, and I just press boy to making a bevel, so its corners will just looks to be the rounded one. And if we want to make the whole meshes become clean enough, we can just do it manually or not. But another fast method, actually just select the whole part and go to the edit mode and press Q, go to the clean mesh. There actually has already been modified functions being added inside the hot ups, which means that there will be removed the unnecessary points on the edge and remove the duplicated vertices, and there also will be another functions to fix some tedious issues on those meshes. So which means that there will be 3 functions being added into one by provided by the clean mesh, so we can just use it, right? But another step I just have to mention before, that actually if we just directly use the clean mesh, there will be some steps need to be mentioned. Actually, I think better to not fix all of its geometry or shading problems and just forget about it and then press the clean mesh. So all those extra lines and the geometries that we added on those meshes will be removed by these functions, and actually the shading problems will not be solved. So that's the reason I think that one of the important step actually just after we have cutting or slice all those things and we apply the boolean, and then we just go to plain mesh. So it will just remove all the single vertices, unnecessary edges, and the duplicated vertices. So we can start cleaning our we can start solving the shading problems again. So that's just it. And another stuff I also want to mention about it, as we can see that if we just directly using the shop by changing its degrees, right, it will just help us to generate to solve most problems, but there will still be some missed edges that actually was not automatically being marked, so we have to do it manually. As we can see that from this part, which means that what kind of beveled weight that I have been added on this one, it seems that it is not smooth enough, so I will just going to fix it later. But before I start going to fix it, as we can see that there will be a lot of black lines over this part, so I just press Q1 again and just press Q to unmark them. So all of these beveled informations will just be removed. So that's just it, as we can see. Actually, generally speaking, there will be several kind of colors can be displayed on those edges, right? And there will be the red lines, which means the marked seam. The purple lines, which means the edge bevel, weight, right? And the blue lines actually as the marked bevel, and the lime line actually is the sharp areas, right? There will be actually full colors, and there will also be another colors. Maybe we can. It is pretty hard to see before that. That actually it is just a black color, which means that the beveled weight is not 1. So the color of this areas will just turn to be black, right? Now let's move to this part, and actually I just still going into fixing some shading problems on the previous part before it, because since when I'm just turning around my whole views of my guns, and I can just find that actually there's still some shading problems and it is not meet my satisfaction, especially on those corners. So if we want to fix it, you can just move it horizontally to move it inside or outside. So if it is cannot fix it, we can also add some extra geometries along the beveled area so that to make it become closer. So some of the shaping problems will just be moved into a smaller part, so that may seems to be not so extraordinary for us to see it, right? And there also be some areas in this part, for example, as we can see that especially if there will be some very strange curved surfaces, right? It is hard to say that how the performance being like that. We can just select all of them and press Ctrl V to smooth vertices to make it to make the surface become smoother, right? Until we have added enough geometry and finally can just meet our demands, right? And as we can see, there will also be some shading problems, especially on those lines, right? So to fixing the problems, I think still using the most classic retopology method to solve it, right? We're just going to not make those corners being retopologized with crossed lines, but we only want to try to make them into the actually, as we can see, like the most retopology by those kind of animations do, that actually, especially to those rounded shapes, and it will always be fixed like that. So for more problems, we can remove the lines much closer to make to that we cannot that there won't be too much room being left for those bevel areas and the outside areas. So the shading problems will just being solved much better. As for this part, we can see that I'm still going to use the previous method, right? And maybe for some beginners, it seems to be a little bit harder or difficult that we just not able to get enough idea that how those areas are just going to be retopologist, right? Like that, right? Well, it really doesn't matter, but I think it may seems to be a much more advanced master, since if you're a new beginner, it will be a little bit hard for you to fix it as what you want, and maybe the shading problems is still gonna be a very big issue for you to get all of them being changed, right? So actually, I think before you start the tutorials, that I think one of the very great method actually is just make another gun on your own, but you just try to model the whole gun based on the cross topology master, right? Maybe the whole process will be very hard and time consuming, but at least you will just know some basic ideas about how those hard surface machines being molded under all quartz, right? And you will just know about how the lines and edges were just being fixed and how those corner areas were just being fixed or being changed, and you will just know the most basic fundamental knowledge that how those steps were just gonna be done until you have a very solid knowledge on the topology. Well, we can just move in these sections to using the box cutter and using the boolean master. As you may find that this method will just be extremely fast by creating especially those or extrude those areas. As we can see that if we just all use the quartz, that you may find it is really seems to be a nightmare for us to got these shapes being made only by use cross, right, or by using the subdivision level. That really seems to be a nightmare, and actually I do believe that it may just take you more than a week to get the whole gun being finished, right? As we can see that if we use the boolean and then by changing all of those topologies using some very lazy master, it can save us pretty a lot of time, and actually it won't take you much time to get this whole gun being finished, and I think it will just take you less than 2 days that you can just got all of its molding and materials being finished, and then you can easily got this whole stuff being put into your animation or your personal films, and it can just be used like that. So there also hardly be anything like, for example, like the shading problems could be fun, right? And under most status, you can cheat it, right? So that is just the stuff I want to say. And another thing I want to say that, especially for those areas, as we can see that there has already been a lot of holes and curved stuffs being digged inside it. If you want to make, if you just want to make another joint boolean on it, you'd better just make the interior parts being extended to the most interior part of the main part, which means that if you forget to make the joinable line being extended to the innermost area of the whole mesh, which means that there will be some vertices being created on the ear, especially on those curved areas. So which means that will be extremely hard for us to fix it later. So that is just it. So now let's see that I just add some extra geometries to solve the shading problems, and actually there has also been some extra part being added to the mesh, but people may just ask that since I have already fixed it before, that there are a lot of areas which has already been made with the edge bevel weights. So how do you fix it if I just add some extra part but there is no beveled weight? And if you do automatic beveled weight by clicking sharp, or just change it to the 30 degrees, that the previous beveled areas that you have been fixed manually or added manually will all totally being washed by automatic sharpening. So you have to do it manually again. It is really time wasting, right? I just want to give another idea that actually you can still use the automatic sharp, but you'd better just change the sharpen angle much larger, for example like 60 degrees. So which means that even though there will be a lot of areas that you do not want them being marked as the beveled edge weights, so it won't be marked with the bevel weight as well. So which means that you do not need to do some extra works for it, right? Another very troublesome problem is, for example, if you want to dig a hole on those areas, for example, there will be some very tiny, actually, tiny shading problems, and it is really pretty hard for you to finish it, right? So I think the better just add as much as geometry as possible. But if you have already added too much geometry, it means that it is no difference than the retopology of that, right? Of the whole gun, right? But I really have no other method to do it later, since you can also use press W and flatten to shape the shading problems, right? So rather than you add on a lot of lines on that, but do not follow the classic cross topology method and make it the shading problems not able to be fixed, right? So that is just it. Okay, as for the rest of the part, will just be some very small areas. We still use the joint geometry, and if you want to make the joint part being beveled, you can just mark them as the bevel edge bevel weights, right? So if you use the hard ups by using the edge bevel weight, it will be pretty easy. You just directly press Q and click the first one mark. So it will just help you to mark all the necessary parts. And as we can see that by automatic mark provided by hard ups, it will just help you to mark the mark your selected edges with edge crease, edge bevel weight, and sharpen. So all of the three functions will just be automatically being added onto a single line, and actually the final displacement actually is just the edge bevel weight, which means that it's just that blue areas, right? But if you just go to press Ctrl E and go to edge bevel weights, and then you remove the edge bevel weights, there will be another color being displayed. I think it should just be the edge crease. And then you just have to press Shift E and then press 0 to remove the edge crease. And finally, the last color line will just be displayed as the burden layer that is just sharpen. And you have to go to press Ctrl E and press unsharpen again. So if you directly go to the edge bevel to go to the hard ups and press Q1, and it will just automatically help you to clean all the meshes or not, or just help you to mark or unmark them, right? As for those small rounded parts on there, it will also be pretty easy. Just directly use cutting knife by use the cutting boolean and press boy to go to bevel and make it the shape looks like the rounded one. Okay, the rest of those extruded parts, as we can see that I have already said before, we'd better just extend it to the most interior part of the whole mesh to avoid the rest of the unnecessary problems, which may extremely hard to be fixed. And we can, if you want to make some rounded shapes of those curves, we can also use bevel, and then we just press M to select all of them and press M to remove all the duplicated vertices. For if you want to make a bevel on the single vertex, you can also select a single vertex and press Ctrl Y, and with the F6 button being popped up, we can just choose vertices rather than edge. So there will be a triangle one being generated automatically on that single bevel, on that single vertex. So that is just to make a bevel on the vertex, right? So after all those stuff was finished, I just go to press sharpen again to let it automatically being sharpened at the angle of 60. To make that steps, I think it will also be pretty easy that with the hard ups, you just select a single face and go to curve extract, and you holding shift, then you press that areas, there will be a solidified meshes being created automatically on that. So once you just click to apply the modifier, so actually it is just like a shortcut to duplicate and solidify a single face and then make it being separated from the original mesh. We can also do the same actions by selecting a single face and then press Shift D, and then we extrude it out and then select all of it and press P to separate. So actually it's just to make the several operations being combined into one and make your operations become smoother and faster. So it only depends on you. Now let's just move to this part. I'm still using the array by pressing V, and then if you want to change its locations, we can just go to the modifier to move the to adjust the Y or Z axis of its array modifier. And after I have already added edge bevel weight for it, as we can see, especially on those corner areas, the shading problems is extremely tedious and it's really hard to be finished. So I think we can use that method rather than connect the lines to the corner, so which means you can also finish it like that. Actually, the method is just try to reduce the angle pressure